Hello viewers, in this class we are going to look at the problems based on cone and a sphere. Now look at the first problem based on cone. A cone of height 7 cm and base radius 3 cm is carved from a rectangular block of wood 10 cm, 5 cm and 2 cm. So you are carving a cone out of actually a cuboid. So the percentage of wood wasted. So how much wood is wasted? So you have to look at in terms of percentage here. We just need to find out first how much wood used, percentage of wood used. Volume of cone, will take it on the numerator, then volume of the cuboid, that rectangular block is nothing but cuboid, into 100. Cone volume is 1 by 3, pi means 22 by 7. Radius is 3, therefore 3 square. Height is 7. Divided by cuboid is 10 into 5 into 𝗹𝗵𝗁 into 100. So 100 cancel. This 21 cancel. So there is 66% of the wood used. So if 66% of the wood used, therefore you can say 34% of the wood is wasted. So the percentage wasted is 34. Look at the next one. A metallic hemisphere is melted and recast in the shape of a cone with the same base radius capital R as that of the hemisphere. If h is the height of the cone, then he is asking you the relation between the radius of the hemisphere and the height of the cone, and for both of them the radius is same. You are melting a hemisphere and you are forming a cone, it is related to both sphere and cone. So you just need to equate their volume. So what is the volume of a cone? 1/3 of pi capital R square, height of a cone is capital H, is equals to 2/3 of pi R cube. Cancel 3 pi by 3 pi by 3. R square also cancel, then you will get H is equals to 2 times of capital R. So height is equals to 2 times of radius. That is the relation between height of the cone and the radius. Next, the radius of the base of a right circular cone is doubled. So radius is doubled. To keep the volume fixed, the height of the cone will be, see, for cone it is actually what? Volume is directly related to square of radius and height. If radius is doubled, so this actually becomes what? Double means 4 times. Height must become 1 by 4, because doubled means 2 times, 2 times whole square is 4 times. So in order to make the volume same, you have to make the height as 1 by 4th of height. So half of the previous height? No. Option B, 1/3 of the previous height? No. Option C, 1/4 of the previous height? Yes. If radius is doubled, you have to make the height as 1/4 of the previous height in order to maintain the same volume. Next one, if the height of right circular cone is increased by 200%, height of a right circular cone is increased by 200%, which means you are actually making it 3 times of the height, and the radius of the base is reduced by 50%, then the volume of the cone. So in terms of percentage, if you look at 50% decrease followed by 50% decrease followed by 200% increase. You can make use of the formulas. 50 decrease, 50 decrease. X decrease followed by x decrease is 2x minus x square by 100 is the formula. If you substitute 50 and 50 in that, 100 minus 25, 75% decrease followed by 200% increase. So minus 75 plus 200 minus 200 into 75 by 100. That is 150, I can say. So this is 125. minus 150. Overall is 25% decrease, because minus 25 we are getting now. So it is decreases by 25%. Answer is D. This by using a percentages formulas we have seen, but you can also make use, you can use the fractions in order to get. So we know 50% decrease. What do you mean by 50% decrease in terms of fraction? We all know that 50% decrease is 1 by 2 in terms of fraction. So radius, it is square of radius. Volume is directly proportional to square of radius and height. Therefore, radius, in place of radius you have to take half of radius, because it is 50% decrease. In case of height, 200% increase means it is 3 times of the height. So let's look at how we'll do it in terms of fractions. Now see, in terms of fractions it's very easy. In place of radius, half into half, 1/4. In place of height, this is for radius and this is for height. 200% increase means 3 times. So it is 3 by 4. What is 3 by 4 indicates? 3 by 4 is 25% decrease. So you can directly get the answer as 25% decrease. Look at the next one. The right triangle with side 3, 4, 5 centimeter is rotated about a side 3 centimeter to form a cone. You are rotating a right angle triangle with about the side 3 centimeters to form a cone. The volume of the cone so formed is, the sides are 3, 4, 5. This is 3, 4, 5. If you rotate it, just take a line like this. You are rotating it about side 3. Imagine this is the rotation. If you rotate it, it forms a cone like this. Yes or no? So it forms a cone like this. This is how a right angle triangle rotates. So it forms a cone. Therefore, for that cone formed, what is the height? The height of the cone formed is 3. What is the radius of the cone formed? Is 4. All you need to find out is the volume. Volume is 1 by 3 pi. Radius square is 4 square is 16 into 3. 3 cancels. 16 pi is the volume. So answer here is 16 pi. Now look at this one. If right circular cone means the height of the cone is perpendicular to the base given. Cone is separated into solids of volume V1, V2, V3 by 2 planes parallel to the base, which is also trisects the altitude V1, then V1 is to V2 is to V3. I told you yesterday, this is by using the similarity of triangle when I was actually explaining the properties of cone. So if you look at, I told you this V1 is to V1 plus V2, V1 plus V2 plus V3. While explaining the properties of a cone, if you are trisecting it by using 2 planes, this is V1, V2, V3. So V1 is a cone, V1 plus V2 is also a cone, V1 plus V2 plus V3 is also a cone. Now how the radius and height varies? It is in the ratio 1:2:3. Therefore, when it comes to volume becomes 1:2 cube is to 3 cube, which is 27. Therefore, V1 is 1. Out of V1 plus V2, out of 8 you take out 1, therefore it is 7. V1 plus V2 plus V3 is 27, out of this you take out 8, therefore it is 19. I told you whether you take V1 or V1 plus V2 or V1 plus V2 plus V3, it should be a cube number. So it should be a cube number. So by looking at the options, you can answer it. Option as D. Now look at this question. Each of the measure of radius of base of a cone and that of a sphere is 8 centimeter. Radius and base of cone. So radius of both cone and sphere is 8 centimeter. Also the volume of 2 solids are equal. For both of them the volumes are equal, then the slant height of the cone. So he is asking you to find out the slant height of the cone. We know the relation between the height of the cone and slant height of the cone. h square plus r square is equals to L square. In order to find out the slant height, you just need to find out the value of h first. Under root of h square plus r square. Their volumes are equal. Therefore, I would say 1/3 pi r square h is equals to 4 by 3. It is a sphere, right? Pi r cube. Radius is anyway same, by 3 by 3, pi by 3, pi by 3 cancel. So, you are left with h is equals to 4 times of r. So, substitute here. 16 r square plus r square is 17 r square, which is root of 17 into r. But what is the value of r? 8. So, 8 root 17 is the slant height of the cone. Look at the next one. A cone of height 15 centimeters and base diameter 30 centimeter is carved out of a wooden sphere of radius 15 centimeters. The percentage of wasted wood is. First of all, find out the percentage used as we found it in the case of a rectangular block of wood. So, here is also percentage used. You are carving it out of a sphere. Therefore, first you are carving a cone. Therefore, volume of cone comes in the numerator. Volume of sphere comes in the denominator into 100. Volume of a cone is 1/3 of pi r square h. R is 15. Therefore, 15 into 15. H is also 15. Divided by 4 by 3. This is also 15. Therefore, 4 by 3 pi r cube, 15 cube. 15 cube cancel. Pi by 3 cancel into 100. 1/4 of 100 means 25% of the wood used. If you are using 25% of the wood, therefore, what is the percentage wastage? 75% of the wood is wasted. Look at the next one. A hemispherical cup of radius 4 centimeter is filled to the brim with coffee. So, you are filling a hemispherical cup. It is in the shape of a hemisphere. You are filling it with coffee. The coffee is then poured into a vertical cone of radius 8 centimeter and height 16 centimeter. The percentage of the volume of the cone that remains empty. First of all, how much you are filling is very important. So, you are actually pouring a hemispherical into a cone. So, what percentage of the cone is filled? Percentage filled is equals to, in the numerator, volume of hemisphere, in the denominator, volume of the cone, because you are filling the cone by using a hemisphere. So, volume of hemisphere is 2/3 of pi r cube. R is 4, therefore, it is 4 cube, 64, divided by 1/3 of pi r square. Radius is 8, therefore, 64. Height is 16 into 100. So, 1 pi by 3, 64 cancel. You left with 2, 8. 100 by 8 is 12.5. If 12.5% of the cone is filled, therefore 87.5% of the cone is empty. So, you are filling only 12.5%, 1/8 of the cone is filled. So, rest of 7 by 8 of the cone is empty, which is 87 by 87.5, or else you can say 87.5%. Look at the next one. A right circular cylinder, a hemisphere and the right circular cone stands on the same base and have the same height. The ratio of volumes is, first of all, right circular cylinder and the hemisphere and the right circular cone, because we only take half of the sphere. Then after you take a cone. The front view of the cone looks like a triangle, right. So, here we can say height is equals to radius only, because the radius are same anyway. Okay. All of them have the same height and same radius. Base radius also, if you take it, it is 2r, this is also 2r, this is also 2r. Now, height is equals to, height for both of them is equals to r. So, now he is asking you the ratio of the volume of a cylinder. Go with the order. Volume of cylinder is pi r square h. h is also r only. Hemisphere 2 by 3 pi r cube. Cone is 1/3 of pi r square h. H is r only. Therefore, everything gets cancelled. Pi r cube, pi r cube, pi r cube cancel. Multiplied with 3, therefore you get 3:2:1. So the volume ratio is 3:2:1. Look at this question. A solid metallic spherical ball of diameter 6 cm is melted and recasted into a cone with diameter of base 12 cm. The height of the cone. Here we are melting a spherical ball and we are recasting it into a cone. So when you are melting one figure and forming another one, everything changes except the volume. So you have to equate the volume of the spherical ball is equals to the volume of cone. We need the height of the cone. So write down the volume of the cone first. 1/3 of pi r square h. R base diameter is 12 means radius is 6, therefore 6 square is 36 into height is equals to a solid metallic spherical ball. Spherical ball is 4 by 3 pi r cube. Diameter is 6, radius is 3, therefore 3 cube is 27. 3 and 3 cancel, 3 pi by 3 anyway cancelled. This I would say 9/4 9/3. 4 also cancels. Height is equals to 3 centimeters. Look at this question. Some solid metallic right circular cones, each with radius of base 3 cm and height 4 cm, are melted to form a solid sphere of radius 6 cm. The number of right circular cones is. So solid metallic right circular cones, you are melting it and forming a. You are melting a sphere and you are forming a solid metallic circular cones. So he is asking you the number of right circular cones. Let us say n into volume of a cone is 1/3 of pi radius of the cone. Here we are melting the cones and forming a sphere. Doesn't matter whether you melt sphere or form a cone, melt cones and form a sphere, you have to equate their volumes. Base radius 3, therefore 3 square, height 4. N such cones are forming one single solid sphere, therefore equate the volume of the sphere. 4 by 3 pi r cube. Here radius is 6, therefore 6 cube is 216, or else take it as 6 into 6 into 6. Pi by 3 cancel. 9. 3 2s 3 2s. 4 cancel. Now n is equals to 4 into 6 24. Therefore 24 such cones needed. Look at the next one. Volume of two cones are in the ratio 1:4 and their diameters are in the ratio 4:5, the ratio of their heights. He is asking you two cones. Let it be R, okay, for cone 1 and cone 2. Their volume 1 by volume 2. Volume 1 by volume 2 is equals to. Let's take out all the constant terms, because pi by 3 there is no use of taking it. I would directly take it as R1 by R2 whole square into H1 by H2. So R1 by R2 whole square into H1 by H2, volume is given. Now they have giving you the ratio of the diameters. The diameters are in the ratio 4:5 means radius will also be in the ratio 4:5. So volumes 1 by 4. Radius are in the ratio 4:5 means 16 by 25. Now what is heights ratio? H1 by H2 is equals to 25 goes that side, 16 comes in the denominator. H1 by H2 is equals to 25 in the numerator, 16 4s 64 in the denominator. The required ratio of their heights is 25:64. Look at the next one. A solid cone of height 9 cm with the diameter of its base 18 cm is cut out from a wooden solid sphere of radius 9 cm, the percentage of wood wasted. So first of all, you can't find out the percentage wood wasted, find out the percentage of wood used. So percentage used is equals to, you are carving a cone out of a sphere. Therefore, I would say volume of cone, volume of sphere. into 100. Volume of cone is pi r square h by 3, or else 1/3 of pi r square. Diameter is 18, means radius is 9. 9 square into 9 by 4 by 3 pi r cube, 9 cube. So therefore 9 cube cancel, pi by 3 cancel. You left with 1 by 4 into 100. 1/4 of 100 is 25% of the wood used. If 25% of the wood used, 75% of the wood is wasted. We have seen the similar kind of sum. Now look at the next one. The radius of the base of a right circular cone is doubled, keeping its heights fixed. The volume of the cone will be. So height is actually fixed if the radius is doubled. We know volume directly varies with square of radius into height. Height is also, you're putting height is also constant, therefore volume only varies with the square of radius. So if radius is doubled, the square of 2 becomes 4, therefore volume becomes 4 times of the previous volume. So the answer is 4 times of the previous volume, because if you double the radius, it becomes 4 times, volume becomes 4 times. Now here we look at problem based on spheres. The volume of the sphere is divided by its surface area. The result is 27 centimeters. The radius of the sphere is, volume of the sphere is 4 by 3 pi r cube divided by its surface area 4 pi r square is equals to 27, means you will be left with pi cancel, all you left with is r by 3 is equals to 27. Therefore radius is equals to 81 centimeters. It's purely a question based on sphere. Here the total surface area of a hemisphere is 27 pi. We know lateral surface area of a hemisphere is 2 pi r square, because it is just 2 circles we take, and when it comes to total surface area, we take 3 circles, which is 3 pi r square. 3 pi r square is equals to 27 pi, pi cancelled. Therefore r square is equals to 9, r is equals to 3. So base radius of the hemisphere is 3 centimeters. That's what is asking you there. Now look at this question. The volume of the greatest sphere that can be cut off from a cylindrical log of wood of base radius 1 centimeter and the height of 5 centimeters is. So you are cutting a sphere out of a log of wood. The front view of the wood is like a rectangle and the radius is 1 centimeter only. Therefore the maximum circle that you can cut out of from this is radius 1 only, because you can't cut a sphere which is greater than radius 1 centimeter. Therefore the sphere that you are cutting, the radius of the sphere must be 1 centimeter only. Okay, you can't cut the bigger sphere than this. Okay, so only 1 centimeter possible inside this wood. Therefore radius is 1, volume is equals to 4 by 3 pi, r cube is 1. So the volume of the sphere is 4 by 3 pi. Look at this problem. If the radius of a sphere is increased by 2 centimeter, its surface area increases by 352 centimeter square. The radius of the sphere before increase was, initial radius you take it as r, next case it is r plus 2, let us say capital R. This one is S1, S2. We know that S1 minus S2. We know S1 minus S2 minus S1 is 352. So S2 is 4 pi capital R square minus small r square is equals to 352. 4 into 22 by 7. Capital R square minus small r square you can write as r plus 2 whole square minus r square is equals to 352. 22 ones are 22 16s are. Therefore r plus 2 whole square minus r square gives you r square cancel, therefore you get 4r plus 4 is equals to 28. 4r is equals to 24, r is equals to 6. Therefore, the radius is 6 centimeters. In this video, we have seen the problem based mostly on cone and sphere. So, mostly when we melt cone and form a sphere, when we melt a sphere and form a cone, how it changes. So, we have to equate the volumes and find out the required thing. So, that is all for today. Thank you.